Helo agus fáilte go trí seascad den program ag BBC Alba ha chuir a frosbeg boranich an spórs. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus mí toite fáilte chuir coach na h-Alba fuis na bliana díag Pauline Hamill gan studio in teachcinse. Our program na heiche noch, vir mi hín is Pauline sùil na Geamaichean migéireach ag skipan an Albannach Alba in An Ungair agus an t-Suain. Chuna sin bhfuil clicket ar Spartans Becky Galbraith si qualifier lé professionta enta Hungary club. Agus chuna sin von Albannach Cara Cheannadach si gulachug san cursin dearbhaidh Geamaichean a Cho Fhlaitheis nas animacha bhliana. Pauline, welcome back to 360.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Well, we do have a lot of Scotland chat to talk about this week. We will start with the women's senior squad because they have just had a double header. They played Hungary on Friday night, last Friday, and then Sweden in a friendly on Tuesday evening. But if we start with Hungary, a kind of last minute winner, what did you make of that?
Well, I think it's always fantastic to get the 3 points. I think that's the most important thing for the team. I think maybe elements of disappointment around the performance and maybe not dominating the way that we can against a team ranked at Hungary's level. However, to get the 3 points is always the most important thing.
Well, that is the thing, and it's so crucial not to drop any points, especially now with kind of bigger games. I know we talk about Spain, but against Spain coming up, because that, I mean, that could go anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing, you know, control what you can, and the home games are absolute must for 3 points. You know, you're playing a real world level team when it comes to Spain, and you know, it's maybe very different tactically in how you'll approach that game. But certainly all you can do is win your home matches, and that's what they've done. They've got the 3 points, and that's brilliant.
Do they need to be more clinical when on top in these games?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, when we look at where our team's at right now in terms of the professionalism of the players and how much they're training and the level that they're training and playing at, then yeah, I think we need to find a way to be more clinical and you know, and also not concede maybe some of the goals that we're conceding against these teams. But I'm sure, you know, Pedro and the coaching staff will be looking at that themselves and trying to find ways to make the team better.
Well, in terms of the World Cup qualifiers, it is now 3 wins from 3 on that side for Pedro. Are you seeing where the squad is going and what he's trying to implement?
Yeah, I think, you know, you see little snippets of it. I think, you know, that it's, you know, maybe when we go back to Anna's time and it was a different style of play, and Shelley and Andy coming in and trying to implement a style of play through the thirds, and Pedro's now continuing that. And the team's at a different stage of their development and they're able to do other things now, which is quite nice to see. But that'll take time, you know, and with that development also comes the necessity to get 3 points in games. So it's always tough for a manager to be able to balance that. But, you know, I'm sure that's what they'll be working on every day, to try their best to put the team in the best position possible to win, but also improve.
What more do you want to see from this squad?
I think probably more clinical in the final third, better decisions in the final third, a team that can get you up off your seat when you're watching and thinking, oh, they're fantastic and it's exciting. I think they show that in spells, but it's maybe the consistency of that and finding ways to really dominate against teams in the group, albeit Spain might be the exception to that.
Well, if we move on to Tuesday's match against Sweden, it was a 2-0 defeat, but what did you take from that game?
I think, you know, for the manager, it's maybe the last time that he would have to try and implement some of the things that he's looking to do against Spain. It's a totally different style playing against Sweden, but the level of opposition is really high. I think you could see in parts of the game what they were trying to do. I think despite Spain are so good with the ball, but they're also so good without the ball, and that will be the big challenge for us. But playing against Sweden, a team of that level, is great for our players, and you know, it's great for them to be able to compete for parts of that game, and that will hopefully give them a lot of confidence going into the next 2 matches.
Well, even just to put Sweden into context, unbeaten in 22, Olympic silver medalists, it was always going to be a tough match. There has been comments afterwards that even from Pedro, that he was actually quite happy with how the team played, and it was a good performance.
Yeah, I mean, from me watching, I think that there was parts of it that were a really good performance. I think the reality is it's a friendly, it's a lot of changes in the Sweden team and not their starting 11. I think for us, we've made some changes as well to give people playing time. And I think there's many things that you have to consider. But overall, I think he can probably see his style of play changing a little bit and the improvements with that. And of course, to play against a team that has done so well in the last amount of consecutive matches is a really good thing.
And what was nice too, I thought, just from watching it at home on TV, was the support from the fans, because you could hear it, and you could hear it throughout, regardless of the score. Yeah. This Scotland team has support, and it's growing, especially with every game.
It is, you know, in both games it's so good to see in the stand the amount of young girls and boys that are coming out to support our national team, and you can see how much it means to them. You can see at Hampden when the team scored the last minute winner, and you know, it's just fantastic to see it, and you just want these fans to keep coming out every single game and supporting the players, because for the players that will make a significant difference. And you know, and coming into future games, it'll be a factor in supporting the team.
And for your under-19 squad, this team must give them something to look at and think, right, that could be me next, that is my goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the under-19s just now, they've just wanted to get back on the pitch playing, but you know, the bigger picture for them is that it can be them. And I think the more that they see other players, other young players getting opportunities within the squad, the more that they can believe that it can happen. And for the very best under-19 players, then they're quite rightly got aspirations to be a national team player.
Brilliant. Well, we will hear more from your under-19s squad shortly, but let's now hear from a player who has been involved in the Scottish game for quite a long time. Or ha dheireadh Spartans Becky Galbraith ball cosche farbeisiach a h-Alba fat Bheir. And t-Albannach aghaidh I h-Alba leth-chùmhnant ag h-Alba ja, rút nach creitigi a hachrug nu de hoshi h-Alba.
Seo bhín a párs just clip a sort of a chulclaníon san art school. Vai dheireadh Becky Galbraith corman a lorag, or some cúmal orra clúich a steigí in school agal.
No, honestly there wasn't. Not the time when I was going through primary school and high school. Like I said, it was kind of, girls and women's teams were few and far between. Like, I remember like having to play for a boys team for a long time, and there wasn't even sometimes changing facilities for girls, because just girls football just wasn't a thing. Sometimes we had to go and get changed in like the gym hall and stuff, because there wasn't a changing room for us. So yeah, it was never, when I was younger, there was never a thought of, oh, this could be a career.
St Howdo, chuid Becky a henamri cúnant le professionte son a chiad ag Spartans. Charoi riamh an bú gun bí seo cumasach san riach ball cosche aiche.
It was an honour, to be honest with you. You know, for me, I'm a lot older, so to sign a contract of any means at the tender age of 32 is quite nice, because you know, when I was younger, I've never even dreamed of the thought of being professional in any manner. But yeah, it was a really nice feeling to be part of the club's history, and be part of history in the women's game in Scotland in general. Has it added a bit more pressure? Probably not, no. Still go out there and give 110%, because from our point of view, we don't play football for money. Like, we women and girls, we play football for the love of the game. More so now, and it's great that there is opportunity to have it as a career in Scotland and not have to go further afield like out with. But football's never been about money, but it is, yeah, it's an absolute honour to, it's the part of history that's the most important for me. Like I said, I've mentioned the word money, but it's not about money. You know, it's moving in the right direction. That's what these contracts are about. and it's to show that the game is developing, to show that Spartans are really, really focusing on the women's side, and it's really important to them, and to also, in years to come, to create a pathway where girls can go to the club and actually have a career and have that support as well.
A príomh coach Spartans, Debbie McCulloch Gymnast, Becky Galbraith na sár clúigeatar, sgas go luas a hai, go láitir sa hai in na leth-chùmhnant skipian ille a farc. Ach, dheireadh na boranich ille a skippe mu Jane.
They call me Moni, right? Yeah, I'm quite a vocal player. It might come across as moaning, but I'm really competitive. And you know, you want to support your teammates, and you want to do absolutely everything you can in training sessions and every game to be the best version of you, to be a good example. You know, I am one of the senior players, so I do try and support not only the younger players, but the other senior players as well, you know. Yeah, I like to try and support as much as I can.
Ha Becky Galbraith nu wil barach riheen vo Spartans. Siet them do barach gemmer in a vonachach in league. A ha le co artificial in Leonisa.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've went from obviously the effects of COVID. We went from playing, I don't even know what it was, because it kind of like all merged together. You know, we played a certain amount of games in such a short period. I think it was 14 games in 8 weeks or something. So we went from that to adapting very, very quickly to that, to then going back into a full league where it's 1 game a week. Obviously there's times when there's 2, but yeah, there's definitely more to come. You know, we're still adapting. We've brought in some new players as well who have fitted in really well. They're still adapting to the way that we play and the style that we play. And you know, for me, I set myself goals every week. My main one is to score goals. I guess that's my main job. But you know, it's all about the team's objectives. That's the most important thing. Like, you have your own wee goals that you set yourself for the whole season, or maybe every week, you know, short-term, long-term goals. But the most important thing for every training session, every game, is what's the team's objectives, and how can I contribute to that.
Ha Galbraith a dói glán, like of sarvachel sa ha bal caution and ban fast an Ep12. Ha ye crutchin, get a lewd geama ahead of chrúlach or television in ish, could you parsed an over son shaw.
Yeah, it's excellent. You know, it's exposure, and that's what it's about. We're still in the early stages of making the women's game more professional, and that plays a big part in it. Being on telly and social media as much as you possibly can, and you know, I've got friends and family members who are now watching the games every week and watching the highlights on a Monday as well, and people following more on social media. So yeah, it's still in the early stages, but yeah, it's great. It creates a more professional environment, and also as well, it's that exposure for the younger players coming through to get them used to being more exposed to television and social media.
Pauline, how times have changed. You know, longer needs to get changed in the gym hall, which is a good step forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can just see for a player like Becky to be able to now be semi-professional at the club she loves is just a fantastic story, when she thinks as a young player that she can't see that, and she doesn't think in the future that that's possible. So it's a fantastic story.
Well, that's the thing, there is still a long way to go, especially in Scotland, but we are seeing positive changes in Scottish women's football.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the clubs, they're all doing it a little bit differently. They're working within the parameters they have, and they're trying to find the best model that can work for them in the future. Spartans are doing it the way that they can do it, and they've looked at what they can achieve and not tried to be like anybody else, but actually worked within the parameters they have. And that's exciting. It's an exciting time for all of the clubs in Scotland, and it's really interesting being on the outside a little bit, looking in to see the developments, and it's really quite exciting.
Because you must look at that, at those developments and at the players coming through and thinking, right, who's next for me?
No, definitely, because, you know, ultimately the young players that are coming through want to be in a club where it's a really positive environment, where they can play, where they have aspirations to be in the first team. And watching this all unfold from a distance it's really interesting and exciting.
It's really good seeing it with Spartans too, who maybe wouldn't be deemed as one of the teams in SWPL1 with a lot of money or more money behind them. So it's great also seeing these semi-professional contracts coming out of teams around the league. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's, you know, as we all know, it's not always about the amount of money you've got. You know, it's absolutely about how you spend that money and how you use it. And I think, you know, to Spartans' benefit, they have Debbie McCulloch, who's a fantastic example of somebody that's trying to, you know, use everything to the best she can for her club. And she's the person who's the driver and all of that. So that's why they can, she's one of the main factors in why they can come up with such a fantastic programme for their players.
And for Becky, even being at the age she is at 32 and still involved in the game, she said it herself, women and girls don't play for the money, they play it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, Becky is a prime example. She loves it and she's been doing it for so long.
Definitely, and you know, if you think back to why you get involved in football, it's because you love it. And you know, I think if you can keep that with you the whole time, money isn't important. Of course, when you're professionalising the game and you want players to have similar or the same, if you do a comparable to men's football, you know, that's different. But I think it all comes back to why you play, and you've always played because you love it. And that's why I think that's even more important, that players like Becky can be a semi-professional player, because she's given everything, still loves the game. It's still the thing she talks about at 32 years old, is that she still loves the game. And I think that's the biggest factor in all of that.
But it's so good to see, and it's so good to hear. And Becky also talks about the importance of the pathway.
Yeah.
And for you as a coach, you know the importance of that too, more than ever.
Yep, definitely. I think, you know, whether it's a youth pathway or a club pathway, it's, you know, it's about giving people opportunities as they progress through their own path. Everybody chooses a different way, and you know, I think everybody's working really hard to give players opportunities to develop with lots of different people involved in their journey. And I think that Becky's an example of somebody, excuse me, that's, you know, that's done that really well, and she's been patient and she's stayed loyal to the club that she loves, and now she's a semi-professional player.
Do your 19s talk about contracts and turning professional and that being their aim?
I mean, you do. For the players, I always like to try, and for the young players to get it all back into perspective, that it's how hard they work and how much they perform that will help them towards potentially getting a professional contract, that doesn't become the thing that takes over everything. But equally, you know, it's great that now in women's football that there is a chance there for a young player to be a professional in our country, and that's something we've been striving for a long time. But they should never forget the steps along the way, and the hard work and what you need to put in to get to that point.
Absolutely, and even just seeing the media exposure, which Becky was talking about, I mean, your 19s again must see that and think, right, that could be me too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think some of them already are professional
yeah, they are,
players.
most of them.
Some of them are, you know, and that's brilliant, and that, you know, ensures that some of the younger players in the under-19s know that aspirationally that's there, you know, and they can get it if they work hard enough. But it is absolutely about what you do to get to that point, and I think that we shouldn't forget the journey to get there and not just be given professional contracts to players.
Great, well, we will be hearing more from your 19 shortly, but just moving on to another sport. Cara Cheannadach bhí farpish an iarsa an gymnastics vying na dearbhaidh. Inis is bhí gorsacha grúd túrsin geamas s-Alba riúchach Geamaichean Chomhlaitheis son an tres túras. Aghaidh fós trenig hís Cara Ballantyne muna half an Yogi.
Horsey Cara Kennedy amach an na gymnastics ag y sioc, agus fwy hi gymal lua gyda talent eich yn spors.
It started when I was about 6 years old. My mum and dad just thought I had too much energy and needed to burn some of it off, so they took me to a wee recreational class. And then within a few months of being there, the teacher at that class sent me along to the gym that I'm currently still at Millhouston Leisure Centre. So that's kind of where it all started. I think it was just the climbing and fooling myself about and just having a bit of fun that attracted it to me. I probably realised that I was getting quite good at it when I was about 9 or 10. That was when I first got selected to compete for Scotland, and I think then I realised that, okay, I must be quite good at this.
Fa Cara a ruch go h-Alba ag na Geamaichean a chòidse an na Glasgow agus a caiinneich go chuma sa bhanluch taich.
It was amazing. It was so cool. I don't think I really appreciated it till after, and probably quite a few years after. At the time, I think I was quite just focused on the competition and making sure I did well, but the atmosphere in the village, and then whenever you went outside the village, was just amazing because you had the Team Scotland kit on, so everyone knew you were representing Scotland. It was quite daunting, to be honest. I remember walking out for the first day of competition, and I could hear lots of different people that I recognised, and I was quite nervous, but once you did it, the support you got from them all was really good.
Ha Cara iddo bhí iad a gástacha grún túrsan tro na dheireadh, a chaneal sin is jeifir sa bí a dhéanamhara, and a bhí a farpas and spars a haich o mesalid.
Yeah, so actually on the lead up to the 2014 Games at the start of the year, I injured my left foot, and there was quite a period of time that the physios couldn't really say what it was, which was probably a blessing because not till after we realised that I had completely torn my ligaments and it had come away from the bone. And had they have found that out, I probably wouldn't have competed. So straight after 2014, I got surgery on my left foot to try and fix that, and it wasn't really smooth sailing. It took about 6 months to be able to just test things out, start walking, start jumping, and quite soon after that, when I started to try and do gymnastics again, I realised that I still had the pain in my ankle, and further investigation showed that there was actually another wee bit of bone that had broken off. I knew deep down that there was still something wrong, so I was quite relieved when they said, okay, well, there is another wee bit of bone there and we need to fix that. But again, that was another 6 to 12 weeks recovery. So it did take me till basically the start of 2016 to then do my first proper competition again after 2014.
A stiúigh tíileach fan a bhí a gástacha, fa cúsin na còid gléimhad a Cara, son a bhí a farpas an na dábhíle sa siatíach, ach va triplat éile na rát an uair sin.
So 2016 was quite a good year for me. I had recovered from those injuries, and I had been on quite a few different international trips. We went to Canada, and we had the Scottish Championships, British Championships, and everything was starting to fall back into place again. And then it wasn't until again the end of the year 2016, I injured my other foot. And it was actually the same injury that I had on the left, but the more minor one. So it wasn't as devastating, but devastating physically, but mentally it got to me more. I guess the only benefit to it was I had been through the exact same thing with the other foot. So once I had kind of got over the disappointment that I was going to be needing another operation, I very quickly just went into determination mode and had planned everything to get back to where I needed to be.
Va Cara ceas go leor son Alba ruchcacha ag na Geamaichean a chòidse an na dábhíle sa hochtíach, agus leis an triplatin in is seachat, ha hada iad an skippe son na Geamaichean an na Birmingham an na dábhíle sa gathríche taríing, ach ha fesaiche go bí didibh.
Yeah, it is on my radar. The last couple of years have been particularly tough, but I am aiming to try and make that Birmingham team. I think it's going to be the most difficult out of the games that I've been through in terms of the standard of gymnasts in Scotland and the selection policy getting even harder. So although it is my aim, I'm not trying to pin all my hopes on it. Women's artistic gymnastics in Scotland is something that has been improving a lot over the years. and it's shown that it's continuing to improve.
A Cara an dóchas a ná dhéinealach de luach spárs an na gymnastics a còidse, agus haid an tliasin mar ha.
Over the last few years I've managed to get my level 1, 2 and 3, so when I stop gymnastics I'd like to continue that and don't know, maybe become a high performance coach one day.
Pauline, Cara talks about representing Scotland. I mean, there must be no greater feeling than that.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it doesn't really matter what sport you play. I think just having that opportunity to represent your country doesn't go to everyone, you know, and I always think to the young players, and as a young person herself, that, you know, you need to grab the opportunities and enjoy every single minute.
You absolutely do, because even listening to Cara there can be bumps in the road. She's been through a lot with injury, and it's even that resilience that's needed to come back from that and keep going and keep pursuing what you love. Definitely,
and I think, you know, I don't know many elite players on a performance level who haven't had bumps in the road, and it's very much about how you approach those situations to try and focus on things that are more positive to bring you out the other side of it. And I think she said as well in the VT herself that she quite quickly turned from being disappointed to, right, how do I get back on track? And I think that's an elite athlete's mindset, which is really nice to see. In terms of injury, I mean, even with your Scotland squad, things must have come on so much and rehabilitating players to get back at playing at the top level. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think as well that the clubs do so much around that if we connect it to football, and it's so important now that the players have the support mechanisms behind them because it's mentally tough for players more than physically at times coming back from an injury, and the thought of how long that will take, but having experts that can break it down into smaller pieces and for the players to understand it's achievable helps them get to the next stage of the rehabilitation. So yep, it's very changed these now to what it was like before. Which is good to hear, but even we see it with Cara. I mean, she's just not giving up. She still has her goal, Birmingham 2022, and you hope for somebody like her that she can achieve that. Oh, definitely, and I think, you know, she looks determined. You know, she's got one eye on the back of her shoulder because she understands there's young people coming, but that's something that you can use as a real positive to spur you and to drive you on, and for her to reach her goal to be in the 4th Commonwealth Games, and that would be such an achievement for her. Absolutely. Well, best of luck to Cara, but for you, I know you have been very busy back with your under-19 squad. You have had your UEFA Championship under-19 qualifiers. How have they been going? If you could just bring us up to date on what's been happening. Yeah, well, we've played our 3 qualification matches just this week in the Netherlands. The team have been there with the rest of the staff, and I think overall, you know, the players have learned a lot from the experience. You know, the first game against Austria competed really quite well, and probably had the most clear-cut chances in the game, but lost the game 1-0. If you look at Austria, who have got full-time players from 12-year-old, and what you're competing against is really tough for our players, but they did great. And the second game is maybe the one that was the winnable game against Ukraine, and we never managed to win it, and we drew that game. And then the last game against the Netherlands, who are the best footballing side in the tournament, and we've met many times previously. And that's been a lesson for the players in terms of how they've played. But going into a competition like that level of opponent, of course, you know, you have to be realistic about what you can achieve. But, you know, I think the biggest disappointment for the players will be around the Ukraine result, but really pleased with how they've done in the other games. It has been a long time since you've played as a team, though, a very long time. What have you, there must be so much that you've learnt from just these 3 games and actually what to implement for the next time that your group's together. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been I think 20 months since the players played last, and some have not even played a youth international game. I mean, I've got 5 players in the squad who have never played for Scotland at any age group, and we've came through a difficult time. Other countries have as well, so we have to, you know, try and learn from this tournament, take the positives from it, look at where we can absolutely be better, and and have a plan for 2022 and how we're going to try and help these young players improve.
How are they feeling now? I can imagine there must be disappointment after some of the results, but do you think they're going to be back on track now and have a good mind on what's coming next?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, the reality is that they're young players learning the game and it takes time. You know, there's bumps in the road. We've just watched videos with players that said bumps in the road, that will happen. And it's about being patient, but at the same time recognising what we're doing well, but understanding where we need to go. And I'm confident that the players will continue to improve in 2022 and it'll be a much more competitive squad then as well. And I'm really excited to work with them again, because they're a great bunch of girls, they've got great mentality, and you know, they're brilliant kids, and it's something to look forward to in 2022.
I know there is a lot happening in terms of you and your role, and especially even working with Pedro, the senior squad head coach. What are the plans with that coming up?
Yeah, well, you know, it's been really tough for us to sit down as a staff group as yet and look at the strategy, because ultimately that's what will ensure we still have successful teams in 5, 10, 15 years time. You know, we're looking to do that really quite quickly, and look at what's good about what we do, look at what could be improved, and look at how we can continue to bring players through who are ready to play youth national team, and look at that gap between 19s and A squad and figure out, you know, can we have something in there that can help prepare these young players for national team level. And it's really, you know, it's quite exciting to start those conversations and to start the ball rolling for the beginning of 2022 and see some positive change.
Good, so even despite the results, are you feeling good about being back and what's to come? Yeah,
definitely. I think you always have to take the positives from everything, and for us now, next year, it means that we play another 3 opponents, not at the level we've just played, but still tough opponents, and an opportunity for our players to show what they can do, what they've learned from that campaign there, and what they can take forward into the next one.
Great, well, we are looking forward to seeing your team back in action and having you back on, but thank you very much for joining us this week.
You're welcome, thank you.
Well, sin air son an noch, Jan Cínseach go bhfuil se bh lent an BBC Alba ar YouTube son an fistracha go súra mu trí seascad aon. Agus nach diachnich go bhfuil an program dhéirigh acin ar iPlayer a BBC Cúteach. And nach diachin ha mi tollite rag gan bhí ard offagar balcosn an ban an Alba, Eileen Campbell, Collarúm sin studio. Hí sin sibh nach diachin.